Welcome back, I'm Paul, and today we have enough stuff done in coarse grit ready to move on to medium in the lotto tumbler. This batch is a batch of stuff that has a crack or a flaw or something like that I can't get rid of because the rock would basically be gone. So a lot of this stuff I was going to have to do better at cleaning it because there's places for the grit to hide. So I try to keep all that stuff separate from stuff that has no flaws at all, so that way I don't have to clean those batches as well, because there's no place for the grit to hide to move from stage to stage. So this one is going to be one of the ones that I have to pay more attention to. I got a piece of chalcedony here, and I don't know much about it. It's got like crystal indents in it or something. I was trying to tumble those away, but I realized that there's going to be hardly anything left if I get them all gone, because there's still some that are pretty deep. So we're going to polish it one time and just see what it looks like. Maybe I should have left it natural, but I don't really have anything that I have saved that is all natural. I pretty well tumble everything at this point, but I might have to start with stuff like that eventually. And got a couple Botswana agates that have some flaws in them yet, but it goes, I can see it goes all the way into the rock. So a Bahi agate, or Baha agate, I guess, I believe it's pronounced. And some random stuff, I don't know what it is. This is a piece of prairie agate that I got at the Black Hills when we were on vacation this summer. It said end cut, and it's got some stuff on the back you can see there. The face looks really nice because we cut it, and there's one little spot right there where it must have been softer, and just rolling it in coarse grit, it was perfectly smooth. The coarse grit put that little indent in there, but we're just going to polish it and see what it looks like when it's done. I've got a piece of petrified, it's like agatized wood. It's really dark. But before I ran it coarse, you could see the wood grain in it. You can still see a little bit of stuff here and there, but it's hard to see on the camera, I'm sure. But a lot of this is just a random array of different things that I have. Another piece of petrified wood. I don't know what that agate is. It's got a little bit of white in it, but there's a hole right there that you can see it, and it goes in a long ways. And there's also material on the backside here that as you roll it away, it just keeps pitting out and pitting out and pitting out, kind of like this. I tumbled it a long time, and no matter what I do, it just keeps coming back. It goes further and further into the rock. So we're just going to try to polish it and see how it turns out. We got one big piece of rose quartz. Another random agate that I don't know what that is. Oh, that one's got a big crystal pocket right there, you can see. And it goes a long ways in there. So, I mean, I guess I could cut that off or break it off, but then I'd have a lot smaller rock. And I really like the design down that. So I think we'll just leave the crystal pocket in the back. The other side looks really nice too, so. A lot of this stuff is from a bulk box that I bought, and I really don't know what a lot of it is, but it all tumbled up fairly decent, other than a few flaws here and there. Nothing too. This is another Baja agate. You can see how it's got that flaw right there on where I cut this one, and it goes all the way through. So I mean, I'm just gonna roll it and polish it the way it is before we don't have much left. All right, what else we got in here? Some of this stuff has been in here for a while. I forget what's even in there. There's a piece of like a moss agate, and you can see that spot right there where the moss is, and there's a hole. Another one I could cut off, but then the rock's going to be so small that we'll just polish it with the floss. I think that's a piece of chert. Not a lot going on, but I bet it'll polish up nice. Another Botswana agate. It's got some holes in it. And another piece of petrified wood. Agatized wood even. And I believe that this one was agatized wood also. You can kind of see the wood pattern on the bottom. But it's got some pretty good holes in it right there. But the other side looks really nice, and it doesn't have any flaws, so we'll just run it. All right. Another Botswana agate. That one's got some really cool lines on it. But it's got this hole on the backside. I don't know what kind of material that is in there, but it goes really deep. You can see when you look on the sides. I could probably grind that off, but we'll just see what it looks like. I can always grind it and then run it again later. I'll probably do that with some of the things that I have. But until you polish it, you don't know how it's going to turn out. All right. There's all that. Oh, I didn't grab my... I also got... a brand new bag of ceramic media. And I went with the straight large this time, I'm going to see, because some of the small stuff wears down so fast that I end up throwing it away. So we need to round some of this over. That's why I figured I'd do it on a batch of rocks that aren't perfect already. Not that I think it's going to mess it up, but they say not to run fresh porcelain in a polish stage. You need to run it in like coarse and medium first, so. Or medium, I should say, not coarse. I don't usually run any filler on my coarse stages. I just fill it with more material, more rock. Oop. I'm going to have to take some of that out. Oh, there we go. I was going to say, normally it'll settle a little bit. So that's all that. I will get the water drained out and we'll get it over on the tumbler and we will get it rolling and load the medium grit in there. All right, here we are on the tumbler. We'll get it rolling and we'll do 2 tablespoons of the medium grit. It's like 120, 220 grit. Like it's fairly fine. Alright, I'll let it run like that for about an hour. I'll come back and check the water and check the level of the media. I might add a little bit more, I'm not sure yet. And then I'll just check the water a couple times a day to make sure it stays wet enough. And it'll run for 3 days. Alright, these rocks ran for 3 days in medium grit. And now they're all rinsed and scrubbed and ready to move on to pre-polish. So we're going to load them. They're all loaded back up and wet. We're going to do a tablespoon of borax and a half teaspoon of the 500 grit silicon carbide pre-polish, and they will run for another 3 days. There's the borax, and that's what the 500 grit pre-polish looks like. There's a half a teaspoon. A generous half teaspoon. Alright, I'll come back and check it in about an hour, see how the water's doing, and then I'll check it a few times a day. And it'll run for 3 days. Alright, these rocks ran in pre-polish for 3 days, and then I rinsed them off and put them back in the barrel, and I burnished the rocks in the barrel just to make sure they're all cleaned really well before we moved to polish. And I used a toothbrush and scrubbed everything up, got all the old stuff, all the slurry out of the cracks and pinholes, and we are back on the tumbler and ready to go into polish. What we're going to do is a tablespoon of borax and a half teaspoon of the aluminum oxide polish, and they will go for 3 days. There's the borax, and that's what the polish looks like. About like flour. Alright, so I'll come back and check it in about an hour, see how the water's doing, and then I'll check the water every couple times a day and make sure it doesn't dry out too much, and they'll polish for 3 days and they'll be ready to go. Alright, our rocks have been polishing for 3 days, so we're ready to rinse them. We'll just give them a quick rinse the barrel and the rocks all off decent, and we'll put them back in the barrel and burnish them for a couple hours with just a tablespoon of borax before we give them a final scrub. I think everything's looking pretty nice. We're just going to load them right back in the barrel and do the tablespoon of borax, and then we'll spend a lot more time cleaning out all the cracks and stuff, because this is a batch of stuff that has cracks and holes that I couldn't get rid of, so we're just going to polish all the flawed rocks together. All loaded up, got our water. I'll dump the water out, put it on the tumbler with borax, and it'll go for a couple hours, and we will be back with our polished rocks. Alright, this is our last batch out of the Lotto tumbler, and they all took a pretty good shine. This is a batch that has some flaws on the rocks because it would have taken too long to get rid of them, but we'll look at a few of them. This is a big piece of chalcedony that we found locally, and you can kind of see some of the bands on it there. Doesn't zoom very well. It's got like concrete in there, and it never came out, and it would have had to tumble a long time to get rid of those impressions, so we just polished it, and it took a nice polish. It looks pretty good. And we have a few pieces of petrified wood, or agatized wood. This is a piece of agatized wood, shined up nice. A lot of the wood has cracks in it like that. And this is another piece of agatized wood. And let's see, I know there's a couple more pieces in here. This one was wood. And we've got a piece of rose quartz. And this is a random piece of agate. I don't know exactly what kind it is. Doesn't have a lot going on, but it shined up good. I believe this is another piece of agatized wood. You can see where that crack is every time you check it. It keeps opening up where that crack is, so you can never get rid of that. So eventually you just got to polish it. And here is an agate. You can see that there's a hole in it right there, but eventually you just got to polish it. This is a Baja agate. It just doesn't have as much color as some of the other ones, but it took a good shine. It's one that we cut. You can see right there the flat edge that we cut. Seeing if there's anything inside of it, and there really wasn't anything more than the outside had. This is a pretty cool agate that we have. You can see the crystal pocket there, and that's why, you know, I could have cut the rock to get rid of that or whatever, but I kind of like the way that the designs look through there. We'll get some pictures, some better close-up pictures of some of these, because it's hard to see some of the stuff. And there's a Botswana. We cut this one also. That's the flat side that we cut. See it polished up nice. And this is another piece of petrified wood. It just looks dark. It's agatized. A lot of that is just really dark stuff. This is a South Dakota prairie agate we've got, and we cut it also. And for whatever reason, this one spot in that agate was softer. So when we polished it, it got a hole in there, but that was cut with a saw. You can see everything else is pretty well flat, and this is the end cut. So there's some pretty gnarly stuff on there, but the face turned out nice. And this is another piece of petrified wood. We had quite a few pieces of petrified wood in this one. They're all stuff that we found locally. This one's got stuff on the bottom, but you can kind of see the wood grain here a little bit. Alright, this is just a piece of agate. I don't know exactly what kind or anything, and there's not a lot going on, but this is another Baja agate. It has a pretty good hole there and a hole there, and the face of it we cut, you can see that it's all got a big crack running through the middle of it that we couldn't get rid of it. So that's why it ended up in this batch. A lot of them still look nice, even though they have some flaws. We'll use some of these if we want to give some gifts or do something like that. There's a nice piece of moss agate. And it's got a big hole in it right there, but the rest of it looks pretty nice. Turned out good. Alright. This one, I don't know what it is. It might be a piece of crazy lace, I'm not sure. It's some kind of an agate. It's got a lot of designs. It'll really show up better when I take pictures. And there's a couple more Botswanas. That one's actually got some pretty nice bands on it. Wind and the rain are picking up out there. Alright. That one's kind of got some cool colors. It doesn't focus very well on it. Like I say, we'll get some I'm gonna have to check this one. This one I'm thinking might be magnetic because it almost looks like heme. There's one that I've heard of before. I can't remember what it's called, but usually it's with a red jasper and it's magnetic. But we'll check that one. All right. Other than that, we just have a bunch more. There's another piece of agate. You can't see a lot going on with it. So everything turned out pretty nice for a bunch of rocks that had some flaws. And we'll get some pictures and see if we can get some of the details in the pictures a little bit better. So thanks for watching.